I love tasting her. 150 on my head, I'ma roll until I'm dead. Yeah, 150 on my head, I'ma roll until I'm dead. And I'm still in them trenches, nigga, I ain't never going out scared. Niggas know how I play, better at the city how I spread. If you got money on your head, best believe I'm going fed. Going fed, yeah.
Little boy. Hey, man. I don't really like you niggas like that, man, cause we ain't free, man. I've been chasing nigga, drinking nigga, facing nigga, man. No, I ain't. Team fed my shit back, brr, gang.
Picture this. It's a regular day in Memphis. A man is driving through the city in his red Infiniti, probably thinking about work, bills, or getting home to his family. No beef, no drama, no street politics, just a normal life. Then bullets start tearing through his windows. Glass explodes, metal bends, his body goes numb, and in a matter of seconds, he's paralyzed from the waist down. The person behind the trigger wasn't some random psychopath. It was a young man who believed he was protecting his crew. Someone who thought he was defending the name of Pooh Shiesty. Someone who saw a red car and assumed it belonged to the opposition. That shooter was C.G. Lil Hank. And here's the part that makes this story even heavier. He didn't hesitate. He didn't double check. He didn't think twice. In his mind, this was loyalty in action. And this was how you prove you're solid. This was how you show you're not just rapping about it, you're really about it. But the car didn't belong to rivals. It belonged to an innocent civilian. That single mistake turned into an 18-year prison sentence. One life destroyed physically. Another locked away for nearly 2 decades. Families on both sides forced to deal with consequences that can't be reversed. So the real question isn't just what happened. The real question is this: when does loyalty stop being loyalty and start becoming self-destruction? Because C.G. Lil Hank didn't wake up planning to ruin multiple lives that day. He believed he was protecting his people. He believed he was standing on business. But sometimes the same energy that earns respect in the streets is the exact thing that takes everything from you. And this story shows exactly how fast that line can disappear. Before C.G. Lil Hank ever picked up a weapon, he was shaped by where he grew up. South Memphis isn't just a location on a map. It's an environment, a mindset, a place where reputation can mean survival. Neighborhoods like Cane Creek Apartments built a certain kind of mentality early. You learn fast, you move alert, and you don't show weakness. Memphis has consistently ranked among the highest major U.S. cities for violent crime. In recent years, the city's homicide rate has been several times higher than the national average. That kind of atmosphere changes how young people think. When gunshots aren't rare, paranoia becomes normal. And in that setting, loyalty becomes currency. Crews aren't always structured like traditional national gangs. Some are smaller, need hybrid groups built around neighborhoods, friendships, and shared enemies. Chopper Gang came from that type of structure. It wasn't just about colors or nationwide politics. It was about who you grew up with and who would stand next to you when things got ugly. That's where P built his circle. Before the fame, before the Billboard charts, before the deal with Gucci and 1017. Back then, it was just young guys from South Memphis trying to earn respect in a city that doesn't hand it out easily. In places like that, proving yourself isn't optional. It's expected. If someone disrespects your crew, you respond. If rumors start spreading, you shut them down. If rivals test boundaries, you push back harder. For someone like Hank, but growing up in that pressure cooker meant one thing. You either become known for standing on business, or you become forgotten. And Hank had no interest in being forgotten. What makes South Memphis different is how fast street politics shift. Beef can start over a lyric, a stare, a social media post. And once tension rises, everybody is on edge. Every unfamiliar car looks suspicious. Every slow drive-by feels intentional. That constant state of alertness rewires how you react. By the time Chopper Gang started making noise in the city, the foundation was already built. Loyalty was the rule, retaliation was expected, and hesitation, that could cost you status. Hank didn't just grow up in South Memphis, he absorbed it. And that mindset would eventually follow him into the moment that changed everything. Some people in a crew play background roles, others handle money. Some focus on music, and then there's the one who's always ready to go first. That was C.G. Lil Hank. Inside Chopper Gang, Hank built a reputation early. He wasn't known for rapping. He wasn't chasing interviews. He wasn't trying to go viral. His value came from something else, action. When tension rose, his name was the one people mentioned. When threats surfaced, he didn't talk about responding. He moved. In street culture, that type of energy earns a label. Some call it solid, others call it reckless. In Memphis slang, it's often called a crash dummy, the one willing to take the biggest risk without hesitation. While Pooh Shiesty started gaining local buzz, Hank stayed grounded in the streets. As Shiesty's music numbers climbed and attention grew, as the pressure around the crew increased, fame doesn't just bring fans. It brings rivals, jealousy, and extra police attention. And that's where Hank's role became even more important. He was seen as protection, enforcement, insurance. When Shiesty's name rang louder in Memphis, Hank's presence made sure nobody thought the rap success meant weakness. If anything, it sent the opposite message. The crew still stood on business. The streets still mattered. Around 2020, Shiesty's single Back in Blood featuring Lil Durk exploded nationwide. The song peaked at number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100 and racked up millions of streams within weeks. What sounded like aggressive energy to fans felt personal to people in Memphis. Lyrics hit different when they're tied to real tension. And with that spotlight came more eyes on Chopper Gang, more whispers, more enemies feeling challenged. That kind of environment feeds crash dummy behavior. When your crew is rising fast, proving loyalty becomes even more intense. It's no longer just about the block. It's about protecting a brand, a reputation, a movement. Hank leaned into that role fully. He wasn't the face of the empire, he was the shield. But the problem with always being ready to react is that eventually you react to the wrong thing. And when that moment came, Hank didn't slow down. He accelerated. By late 2020, things weren't just local anymore. When Back in Blood dropped, it didn't sound like a regular club track. It sounded personal. The hook was catchy, the beat was aggressive, and the energy felt direct. When Pooh Shiesty teamed up with Lil Durk, the record exploded. Millions of views, national radio play, Billboard charts. But in Memphis, people weren't just vibing to it. They were analyzing it. The phrase, "come get it back in blood," wasn't taken as metaphor by everyone. In a city already divided by neighborhood lines, many believed the lyrics referenced real-life tensions between South Memphis crews and rivals from the North Side, including EBG, Everybody Gangsta. Suddenly, what might have been street talk turned into public pressure. When a song like that blows up, it does two things at once. It elevates your career, and it magnifies your beef. Rivals feel called out. Fans pick sides. Social media starts speculating. Every lyric gets dissected like evidence. For someone in Hank's position, that kind of spotlight changes the atmosphere. Now, it's not just about protecting territory quietly. It's about defending a reputation that's spreading nationwide. The stakes feel higher, the ego feels bigger, and the paranoia, that increases too. Because once you're visible, you're vulnerable. There were rumors circulating about weapons being taken, safe houses getting hit, and retaliation being planned. Whether every detail was accurate or not didn't matter. What mattered was perception. In street politics, perception often drives action more than facts, and Hank was known as the one who acted first. When tension builds for months, it creates a hair-trigger mindset. Every unfamiliar car looks suspicious. Every slow drive through the block feels intentional. Every rumor feels urgent. That's what made 2020 so dangerous. The music was climbing, the fame was growing, the pressure was building, and in an environment like that, all it takes is one glance at the wrong car to turn paranoia into tragedy. It didn't happen during a shootout. It didn't happen in some dramatic gang ambush. It happened in seconds. In 2020, CG Lil Hank was riding through Memphis when he spotted a red Infiniti. To most people, that's just another car on the road. But when you're deep in street tension, small details feel loaded. Rumors had been floating about rivals driving similar vehicles. Beef was active. Emotions were high. In that split second, Hank made a decision. He believed the car belonged to the opposition. Without verifying, without confirming who was inside, he opened fire. Bullets ripped through the windows. The driver had no idea why he was being targeted. He wasn't a gang member. He wasn't involved in Chopper Gang politics. He wasn't connected to any North versus South feud. He was just a civilian. The shots left him paralyzed from the waist down. Doctors later confirmed that the spinal injuries were permanent. In a moment, his independence disappeared. Walking, working normally, living without assistance, all gone. And while the victim's life was collapsing, Hank tried to flee. That's when everything unraveled. As he sped away, panic likely setting in. He lost control of his vehicle and crashed into a pole. The impact disabled his car. Witnesses had already called police. When officers arrived, Hank was still at the scene. Shell casings, damaged vehicle, Injured victim, immediate arrest. There was no dramatic manhunt, no weeks on the run. The crash sealed it. Investigators quickly pieced together what happened. The motive wasn't random rage. It was mistaken identity fueled by ongoing street conflict tied to the circle around D. But the courts don't sentence paranoia. They sentence actions. And Hank's action left an innocent man in a wheelchair for life. That moment shattered the illusion of control. What felt like loyalty in his mind became attempted murder in a courtroom. One decision, less than a minute, and everything changed. Once the case hit the courtroom, the street narrative didn't matter anymore. There were no lyrics to hide behind, no crew to back him up, no social media debates about who started what. Just evidence, testimony, and a man sitting in a wheelchair. Prosecutors laid it out clearly. Multiple shots fired, civilian victim, permanent spinal damage. Witnesses placed Hank at the scene. Physical evidence backed it up. The crash that happened while fleeing only made the timeline tighter. The defense had little room to maneuver. There was no self-defense argument, no exchange of fire. A no threat coming from the victim's vehicle. It was a mistaken assumption followed by a violent reaction. In court, the focus shifted away from gang politics and toward impact. Doctors described the extent of the paralysis. The victim would require long-term medical care, rehabilitation, and daily assistance. Lifetime expenses for spinal cord injuries in the United States can reach into the millions of dollars, depending on severity. Beyond the financial cost, there's the mental toll. Depression rates are significantly higher among individuals who experience sudden paralysis. The victim's family had to adjust their entire life around one afternoon of chaos. When sentencing day arrived, the judge reportedly addressed the senseless nature of the act. This wasn't targeted retaliation between rivals. That this was an innocent person caught in someone else's paranoia. The outcome? 18 years in prison. Nearly 2 decades. Prime years gone. Freedom replaced by a cell. While he was building a national career, eventually signing with Gucci Mane's 1017 label and selling over 60,000 units first week with his debut project, Hank was adjusting to prison life. That contrast hit hard. One rose into mainstream rap success. The other sat behind bars replaying a decision that took less than a minute to make. The court didn't care about loyalty. It cared about consequences. And 18 years is a long time to think about a split second. You'd think 18 years would change a person. Most people, when facing nearly 2 decades in prison, start reflecting. Regret creeps in. Reality settles. But according to reports and social media chatter tied to his circle, CG Lil Hank didn't publicly shift his energy. Instead of distancing himself from the lifestyle, he allegedly doubled down. Posts surfaced suggesting that the only reason certain rivals were still alive was because he was locked up. The tone wasn't remorseful. It wasn't apologetic. It sounded defiant, as if prison was just an interruption, not a consequence. That mindset says a lot, because at this point, the victim is learning how to live without walking again. His family is adjusting to hospital visits, therapy sessions, and a completely new normal. Meanwhile, Hank's narrative in the streets continues as if he simply took a charge for the team. And that's where loyalty becomes complicated. Even while incarcerated, Pooh Shiesty has continued to mention his people in music. Shoutouts keep names alive. In street culture, that matters. It signals that you're not forgotten, that you're still respected. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Music moves forward. Careers grow, deals get signed, streams keep climbing, prison time does not move forward. The world outside keeps spinning, trends change, artists evolve. New faces take over the spotlight, but inside a cell, time feels different. Slower, heavier. Staying solid from behind bars might earn credibility in certain circles, but it doesn't shorten sentences, it doesn't undo damage, and it doesn't give someone their legs back. The crash dummy image often gets glorified, the fearless soldier who never folds. But when that image continues even after everything falls apart, it raises a bigger question. Oh, is that strength? Or is it refusal to face reality? Because at some point, standing on it stops looking tough and starts looking tragic. At first glance, the story sounds like loyalty. A young man riding for his crew, standing 10 toes down, ready to defend the name at any moment. In certain circles, that earns instant respect, but when you zoom out, the picture changes. CG Lil Hank is serving 18 years. That's birthdays missed, holidays gone, family growing older without him, opportunities disappearing. Nearly 2 decades to prison walls. Meanwhile, the innocent man he shot wakes up every day in a wheelchair. His independence was taken in seconds. Simple things most people never think about. Walking to the kitchen, getting into a car without assistance, climbing stairs are now daily challenges. And the emotional weight doesn't just sit on him, it sits on his entire family. And for what? A red car. A split-second assumption. That's the part crash dummy culture rarely talks about. In music, it sounds bold. In interviews, it sounds fearless. Online, it gets praised as standing on business. But in real life, it leads to courtrooms, hospital beds, and long sentences. Look at the contrast. Pooh Shiesty rose to national fame. Millions of streams, billboard placements, a deal with Gucci Mane's 1017 label. His debut project moved over 60,000 units in its first week. His name expanded beyond Memphis. Hank's name expanded too. But in a different way. One became a headline for music, the other became a headline for attempted murder. The streets may remember Hank as loyal, as someone who didn't hesitate. But history will also remember the innocent civilian whose life changed forever. That's the real cost. Crash dummy energy might bring quick respect. It might make you feel untouchable in the moment. But moments pass. Consequences don't. And when the smoke clears, loyalty without judgment can turn into self-destruction. So the question isn't whether Hank was loyal. The real question is this: was it worth it?